All right, are you ready for your WWE Week in Review? If so, Michael Gross is back to join us to talk about everything that happened this week in WWE, including Charlotte being really transformed, Lily with Alexa Bliss, and Alexa Bliss putting the women's division on notice, Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley, Apollo Crews, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, Tamina having a career week, and so much more. Guys, we're going to get it all started right now.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your number one source for the latest in WWE news and straightforward analysis. Are you ready to get this thing going?
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
Then let's get this show started right now.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the WWE Podcast. It is your Week in Review. It is our flagship show, as they say, and we have Michael Gross tonight to join us to talk about everything that happened this week in WWE, at least for Raw and SmackDown anyway. Some of the topics, you can see them in the description. You heard them at the open of the show, but we really do a deep dive, as always, and we look forward to WrestleMania Backlash, project onto SummerSlam, maybe even beyond, speculate about Becky Lynch's return, when that could happen. It's just really great conversation with Michael. As always, it feels like it's been too long since we've had him on the show, and it's great to reconnect and get him back on. As always, super fun, super intelligent, and it's a great time. So I think you guys will also have a great time listening to us here discuss the wrestling WWE product in just a minute. But first, thank you everybody for joining us here on the WWE Podcast. We are here 9 times a week to really just cover everything, including AEW. If you're new here, we cover even AEW. We are on Patreon for an ad-free experience. If you don't want the ads, head to Patreon, patreon.com/WWE Podcast, and just download the app if you don't want to use your browser. Who the hell uses internet browsers now, right? No one uses their PC. It's all on our phones. So download the Patreon app. You get exclusive shows there now. Okay, so Wrestling Nostalgia is now moved to the WWE Podcast on Patreon feed, so you won't be able to see the Wrestling Nostalgia starting this week. Well, you'll see all the old shows on my feed, but any new shows for Wrestling Nostalgia will be exclusively on Patreon starting this week. Other exclusive content's coming, and you can get free access to me directly. There's a message feature in there that I answer. It's directly to me. It's like instant messaging me for those of you that remember AIM. Anybody remember? Of course you guys remember AIM, I would think. It's kind of like that, except a lot better, and it's direct access to me. We can talk wrestling, whatever else you like. It's just a cool thing, right? It starts at $1 a month, everything ad-free, exclusive shows. There's even a video or two in there talking about Samoa Joe's release a couple of weeks ago. So pretty cool deal, and more to be added soon. I keep saying that, but there's a lot happening behind the scenes, guys. I promise. I think it's going to be a lot bigger, a lot better than it is right now. Okay, well, enough of that. Let's talk about WWE. Let's talk about wrestling, because that's why you're here. That's why you clicked on this podcast. So I hope you enjoy. I'll be back on Tuesday evening to discuss the Monday Night Raw review, and then Wednesday is a dual show with Wrestling Nostalgia exclusively on Patreon, but your mailbag comes to you on this free feed, so that will be the next time you hear me, if you're interested in such things. So, okay, everybody, I'll shut up. Let's get to Michael Gross and myself talking about this week in WWE. Everyone, enjoy yourselves. Take care. I'll talk to you next time. All right, everybody, welcome to your Week in Review. Tonight, we've got a co-host back with me it feels like it's been forever, right? Like, it feels like it's been much too long, and that's why we have him back, not just because it's been a while, but also because I get a lot of great feedback on Michael Gross. He's back with us tonight to discuss what's going on in WWE right now. It is the WrestleMania hangover. We are in that post-WrestleMania phase of WWE. There's a lot of good, a lot of bad. So we're going to get to both of those. But first and foremost, Michael, how are you doing, man?
I'm excellent. Feeling actually pretty good, and kind of miss being on the show. So I'm really humbled, as always, to be here. But I miss everybody who listens, and I miss the feedback we get. And I'm ready to talk some wrestling whenever you are, man.
Hey, me too. And first things first, though, this is not a WrestleMania review by any sort. We have buried that to death. But I do have to know, and fans have been asking, what are your thoughts, general thoughts about WrestleMania and since then? I mean, what were were you surprised about anything? Were you pleasantly surprised? Were you disappointed in anything? Just kind of very high level about from WrestleMania to now.
Well, the biggest surprise for me was Drew McIntyre losing cleanly. And just Bobby Lashley going over. I really didn't think they were actually going to pull the trigger with it. Both women's titles changing hands. Some of the stuff that we talked about beforehand on the show, at least a week prior, I don't want to say we were wrong, but it just and Apollo Crews continuing to get his push. So yeah, there are some pleasantries coming out of it. The downside is there's no need for an established fighter like Matt Riddle to be putting over Sheamus at this point in his career. There's no need for Randy Orton to be going over The Fiend. This story's gone on way too long at this point. And instead of building Randy Orton, who doesn't need to be built, that was done 16, 17 years ago, we've got The Fiend falling further and further down the rungs of the ladder. So I need to see where this is going to go in a more cognitive sense. And I know that they're trying to build the Alexa Bliss character, but if this was about the Alexa Bliss character, that character's already been built. So I saw some positives as far as some underdogs, or people that we would bet against as far as going into WrestleMania losing. But I'm happy with the fact that they weren't, that Bobby Lashley won, that Apollo Crews won, that, it was kind of I don't want to say a heel heavy, but it was definitely a heel heavy on the side of the winning turnout. So instead of send everybody home happy, we sent everybody home confused.
Confused, but also, again, I would actually give Vince credit for not put a smile on people's faces ahead of what actually makes sense in logic of Roman Reigns retaining, in my mind, with the final night of WrestleMania. But again, I would like to also touch on one thing that beyond WrestleMania that you brought to my attention prior to this show, and I don't know how I've missed it, but I do want to ask you about this story of somebody stealing belts in WWE. What's this all about?
So apparently a backstage producer or writer, and I'm still searching to find the link, but it was on, I believe, Wrestle Talk that came to me this morning. And essentially, he's been stealing the real belts, not the replica belts. He's been stealing the real belts, and they've been talking about, like, Walter misplaced his belt or so-and-so misplaced his belt, but mysteriously they get returned. And apparently his wife or girlfriend outed him. And they've made like a really big news blow up about it. I know that they talked about it on Wrestle Talk this morning, but the fact is, like, why would you want a belt that much? And she specifically told them where they could find belts. Like, you could find it under my bed at this location on such and such avenue, such and such place. So I don't get it. Okay, if you could work for WWE for a day, and you and I are both the biggest wrestling fans in the world, would you steal a belt? You're stealing to begin with. You are already committing a felony of some sort. And then to make matters worse, you're just stealing from your boss. Like, none of it makes sense. It's just so crazy. So I find it kind of comical. I have been trying to trace down the link to it, but unfortunately it's hard for me to relocate at this point. But yeah, if anybody has any news on that, at 144Captain on Twitter, please let me know, because it was a very interesting story to me, I thought. So, I mean, it looks like they're clearing house, right?
No, it does too. I mean, beyond that, which again, I was not privy to. I tried to search on a couple of sites that we all know, the big ones. But I looked and I couldn't find anything, but I did see other news that I guess I shared with you and you didn't know. So I guess you and I are kind of educating each other on what's going on, is that WWE has let go a lot of its, not just talent, not the on-screen talent, but we all know those names. A lot of which were very surprising, the Iconics and Samoa Joe heading that up in my mind. But the fact that they're letting go a lot of management, a lot of talent relations, including Mark Carrano. Those that don't know, Mark Carrano is the head of talent relations. He'd be the one to send out the future endeavored messages to talent when they were being notified they're being let go. He would be the one to hire and fire those the talent, the on-screen talent, and he has been let go due to, again, guys, I want to preface this by saying these are rumors that it was due to harassment of other talent. Now, that may not be the case, but that's what I'm hearing through the grapevine. But also, they are really just kind of doing a facelift with management and talent relations, and just really, and I guess Vince even mentioned that he feels very confident in the people he has now. So they're not just, quote, trimming the fat of on-air talent, but also internally, the management of their staff, of the stuff that goes behind the scenes, production, HR, whatever. I guess they're also kind of doing a facelift on that. So, boy, they're really just trying to, I guess, up their game, or I don't know. What? How do you view that?
You know, it's very confusing to me because first we had Laurinaitis put back in control, a month ago?
Yeah.
Back into the talent relations position. So this position is a very, very slippery slope. I think that it's almost a cursed position. Like, everybody wants it because it has a huge pay increase, but unless you're JR, John Laurinaitis, you're not going to last there for a very long time. And all I can think is that between cutting losses as far as salaries go with the wrestlers, which I don't see that even equaling $1 million a year, maybe a little bit over $1 million, $1.5 million tops. Okay. When you get rid of somebody on that top tier in that talent relations or, talent development, any one of those like high marquee positions, something's wrong. And I think part of it is also Hunter saying, well, look at the success I've had with NXT. Now, also you can say, look at the success I had with stealing everybody from the indies. So you can argue that you don't really need somebody in these positions. But if it is harassment, I mean, then the guy needs to be let go. There's no reason to keep anybody on for any kind of situation like that. But what I will say is that I don't think this is over yet. I think that there are going to be more people fired and more weird things coming out. This just seems to be the time of the year where this happens, just like last year. And last year was COVID. Well, now this year it's just, let's trim the fat. Let's just cut.
Yeah, and this has to be, if I'm an on-air talent or really working for WWE on any level, WrestleMania week and the week after have to be the most emotional roller coaster of a ride that you can imagine, because it's the show that you work towards all year. It's the peak of your career for most superstars. At the same time, the week following is going to be massive cuts. Usually there's headlined by a couple of names that you don't see coming. And really everyone's head is on the chopping block, so to speak. So it's got to be such a contrast of emotions for WrestleMania week, because it's the best and the worst. So you're so stressed but so excited. I mean, I would not, honestly, if WWE offered me a job, I probably wouldn't take it. Unless it was me sitting at home and it was just kind of like contractor for hire. I could, I don't know, chip in with creative every once in a while where it was low risk to me. I would not want to be involved in WWE in any capacity, official capacity. I just wouldn't, But any final thoughts on that kind of the news before we dive into the creative, so to speak?
No, I just really wish I could find that link, but it's just interesting that, they've got somebody who was higher up in the system stealing their own belts and letting them stay under a bed for some reason. I don't know. And I don't know, like you said that you got hired and it was creative. You don't even know if you would take the position. That's the only thing that you and I both crave, because we get tired of the complacency and the mediocrity that we're fed every week. And it's funny because we would be afraid, as much as we would love to change the product, that we would lose our jobs by changing the product. And I fear for everybody who works for WWE having to go to work every day knowing that they might have a brilliant idea, and knowing that brilliant idea might cost them their lives. Well, their work lives.
Yeah. If you're working for WWE,
that's yes.
Yeah, you have to have a plan B. Like, WWE cannot be your one and only plan A. Like, you have to understand that, in a week, 2 weeks, a year, 2 years, 3 years, nobody's immune. Nobody has a free pass. Eventually, you likely will be let go. And that's just the way it works in WWE. And the thing is with creative, as I've said here, and you and I have said many times, the problem with creative is it's not necessarily that the talent isn't there in the minds of those people who they bring in. I think it's the fear and the culture that is that is created around that environment, around the creative team, to understand whether it's set or not, that it's really writing for Vince. It's not necessarily writing for what they think may be the best story, but what Vince may think is the best story. So it's kind of I think that's to me the biggest problem, is that I think creative writes for Vince.
It's a catch-22.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're writing for Vince, but yet you have these brilliant ideas, and a lot of people who go into working for WWE are not wrestling fans. They say it's also soap opera writers who just want this under their belt so they can say that they can write for live television, so on and so forth. I don't know. I'm not there, but I wish I was sometimes, just to see what the reality of it is. But it's sad, because how are you supposed to create if somebody already has something they want? You can't bring a vanilla cake to a person who only eats chocolate, and that's your one food so far. But that's what it is right now. Is that is a scary position for anybody right now.
It is.
I just
yeah, and just
imagine it.
So you're breaking up a little. It's like you're distorted a little here and there. It's like half the time you're good, half the time it's a little distorted. So I don't know, put a tin foil on your head or something. But so I'll let you get adjusted. I do want to shift gears to some of the good stuff that's going on, because you and I both have certainly a lot of kind of not so great stuff to discuss with WWE right now. It's WrestleMania Backlash. We know with WrestleMania Backlash, you're getting the leftovers warmed over. You are getting what's left over from WrestleMania, whether you wanted it or not. Most likely rematches of some kind of, in some form or fashion. You're generally getting the same programs, but what would you expect with a pay-per-view named WrestleMania Backlash? And before we get to the things that we don't like, and there are several, I do want to discuss the things that you and I think, do like. And I want to balance this show out and not just be all negative and that kind of thing. And I think you'd agree. And I think that starts with Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, and Roman Reigns this past week on SmackDown. Cesaro continues to try and convince Roman Reigns to face him, and Roman just continues to brush him off, just ignore him, disrespect him. Jey Uso is the one who continues to step up. Roman doesn't save him from an ass whipping, but he expects Jey Uso to be the one to take care of his problems. And Roman Reigns said the answer will always be no to Cesaro. I think now, to me, this is where it ends. So if you don't want spoilers in my mind of possibly where this is going, I think is what's going to happen is that Roman Reigns is going to dodge and tiptoe around Cesaro until he's forced to face him, which will in all likelihood will be when and if Cesaro wins the Money in the Bank next month. At that point, he's not going to have a choice but to face Roman Reigns if he wins that wins the Money in the Bank briefcase. So I think that's where they're going as Roman continues to dodge Cesaro. The only thing I have is, why is Daniel Bryan speaking on behalf of Cesaro? Is it because WWE doesn't trust Cesaro? Is it because they want to use Daniel as a conduit for the fans and what they feel and think about Cesaro? Or is it something else? I don't know, but that's the one thing I would say is, why is Daniel Bryan being such an advocate when Cesaro should be advocating for himself? That's the one nitpick I have about it. But other than that, I'm really liking what's going on here.
Well, I'm hoping that there's going to be a really big payoff to this. But I am kind of miffed on that situation too, because everybody knows Daniel Bryan's the underdog. He's gotten himself into that higher Benoit position of, okay, he can still get it done. He might be the underdog, but that time is coming past, and we all know that no matter what happens in the ring, he is solid. He's the best. And so with that being said, I think that they're hoping some of his charisma will wipe off onto Cesaro, but Cesaro wouldn't be in this position if people didn't want him there already. So it just kind of makes it a little convoluted. It makes it like the Edge, Daniel Bryan, triple main event with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, because why are we getting this? Why are we getting two babies and a heel? It makes more sense with two heels and a baby. Now, unless they go into like some kind of like weird tag team, situation sidebar for a little bit, I don't see how long this is going to last and or why it should. But I'm loving the fact that Cesaro is finally getting placed at the top. It's kind of confusing because you kind of figure Shinsuke Nakamura was going to get this rub, and he's fallen off the face of the planet, unfortunately. So aside from confusing, I'm just liking the fact that, Cesaro's up at the top tier for a change, and it's not, it's not just a one-off, and I'm hoping it's not a one-off. But it doesn't seem like it. It seems like they're going to build something with that. It would be interesting if he's the one to actually retire Daniel Bryan as like a respect factor from when they came up from Ring of Honor and so on, Crash Zone and all those crazy places. But yeah, like this has no limit. This is really interesting. The weirdness also is Jey Uso is still getting this top tier rub, and they need to pull that back. He's going to turn or he's going to become channel changing material, because you're kind of wondering why he's on so many segments in a show when there's other people that could be spotlight. So that's my biggest problem with that right now. And I also like the fact that Paul Heyman talked up Cesaro so much, and they kind of briefly brushed upon the past when he very, very briefly managed Cesaro. So I like that.
I do too. Paul Heyman knows what he's doing. He can run somebody down at the same time being able to build him up, and that's the genius of Paul Heyman. He can undercut someone at the same time, build them up and give them credit and make them feel important. Paul Heyman's brilliant with his words, and he's always has been. Again, I am kind of over the Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan thing, but again, we have to accept that as WrestleMania Backlash, that there's going to be a lot of repetitiveness in the card. There's going to be a lot of the same competitors, same type of matches on the card. We kind of understand that with the name of the pay-per-view. What's interesting too, and I put this out on Twitter, is that Adam Pearce, as Daniel Bryan was advocating all night for Cesaro to get the Universal Championship match, because apparently Cesaro doesn't know how to speak, is that really, like at the beginning of the show, Cesaro's holding the mic, and I'm like, there's no way they're going to open the promo from Cesaro. Immediately within 10 seconds somebody's going to interrupt.
I was surprised. Yeah, I was surprised.
And they didn't even give him a word until Seth Rollins interrupted. And I said, there we go, because they did that with Roman Reigns when he was a babyface. They didn't let him talk for more than like 60 seconds, so they kind of protect his weaknesses before someone came out and interrupted and did most of the talking. And that's what they did here. And I understand Cesaro is not the best on the mic. At least, he doesn't you have that typical wrestling promo. He is a bit bland on the mic. He just comes across that way. He is. But in the ring, everybody knows that he sings a different song, so to speak. And that's where I think he does a lot of his talking. But my point was about Adam Pearce. Daniel Bryan goes up to Adam Pearce on SmackDown and tells, Pearce, hey, you got to make this match between Cesaro and Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. And Adam Pearce says, hey, man, it doesn't work like that. I can't just snap my fingers and make it happen. I'm thinking to myself, well, that's what you've been doing for a year. Like, you've been making matches on the fly. That's exactly what you've been doing.
It is so funny that you mentioned this, because I just put a circle and a star next to. So how is it that Maurice can make a match for The Miz?
Yeah.
But Adam Pearce can't make that decision by himself.
Just can't?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
I apologize.
It's just one of those things. And again, I want everyone listening to understand, like, we generally, I love the fact, you love the fact that Cesaro is getting an opportunity here.
Absolutely.
And yes, it's not official yet. It's going to be a cat and mouse game for a while, but we all know eventually it is going to be Cesaro versus Reigns for the championship. Probably Money in the Bank. It could happen as soon as Backlash, but probably they'll do this little cat and mouse for a while, which will build the anticipation and that feeling of like, hey, like, I want to see this. Come on, Roman. That's the feeling, and I hope they build it for a while. But yeah, it made no sense when Adam Pearce said that. I'm thinking to myself, what are you talking about? You're the one who's like, you make matches constantly, all the time, on the fly as an official, because you're not a GM. We know you're really a GM without the title. But, I mean, like, what are you talking about, Adam? Like, so that was a little bit ridiculous and laughable that he said that. But outside of that, I like the fact that Cesaro's getting this opportunity. Do I think once he finally faces Roman Reigns, whether it's this pay-per-view, the next pay-per-view, hell, they could wait until Extreme Rules or SummerSlam. I don't know. But do I think that Cesaro's going to overcome Reigns and become champion? Probably not.
No.
Probably not. What do you think?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's sad because I think we all want it, and it's like the indie darling versus the forced superstar that Vince created. But no, and if it does happen, it's going to be way down the road. It'll definitely be SummerSlam or something like that, because they have to plan this one out. If you're finally going to give Cesaro the moment to shine, we can't fumble the ball on this one. Live audience would be nice, but if you don't have it, you really have to have all the bells and whistles. We can't have any garbage or gaga or any kind of just weird, silly stuff. We got to get rid of Jey Uso. We got to get rid of Daniel Bryan. We got to have it one-on-one, and Cesaro's got to have an actual moment of winning. So, because let's be honest, in the next 5 years, Roman Reigns is going to hold that belt or whatever else belt he wants. So, at this point, if you're going to give a guy one moment to shine, even if it's going to be a few months, it's going to have to be really special, and it's not going to be anytime soon.
No, I sadly think Cesaro will not overcome Reigns when he does face him. I think that they believe Reigns has they have a bigger opponent in mind for Roman Reigns when that person does overcome Reigns and capture the Universal Championship. Hell, I could make the case that Roman Reigns probably is champion through next year's WrestleMania. I really believe it's possible. I think that they know they're onto something special, and the heat building for Roman Reigns is something that you don't see in every heel. Hell, I mean, I'd argue, this is as rare as once a decade that you get a heel this natural and this well built around. Like he is the backbone of SmackDown, I would argue. I mean, he feels important. How many times did we say when he was a babyface, man, I can't wait till Roman Reigns gets on the mic, I want to hear what he has to say. We were cringing with him as a babyface, and as a heel, you're like, I actually kind of want to hear what he has to say to Daniel Bryan or Cesaro here, and it's just such an interesting dynamic. Everything is completely flipped with Roman as a heel, and we all knew it would. It was just really Vince is the one who was the holdout. So anything else on this whole kind of Roman, Cesaro, Reigns? Although I should ask, because I didn't, what about Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns next week for the Universal Championship? Yet another championship match on free TV with the Intercontinental Championship on the same night.
I know.
What the hell?
Like, why don't we just give it all away? Why don't we give it away? Okay.
I know.
My thought process on this one is going to be pretty direct to the point. Is no belts are going to exchange hands next week. You just can't give it. You can't give both away, and you're not going to give one away. It just doesn't make sense at this point. It furthers the storyline between, obviously, Apollo and Big E. But as far as Daniel Bryan goes and his championship opportunity, I think that's going to cause a problem between he and Cesaro. Cesaro's going to try to help him when Uso gets in, and then it'll end up with Cesaro working against Daniel Bryan by accident, and then that causes that rift between them, so that way they can set up another three-way match, another three-way dance for the next pay-per-view, or so on. That's really where I see that going.
Yep. I think it's all very, very clear, and we have, 2 weeks until... At that point, we'll have 2 weeks until WrestleMania Backlash, so they got to set up the match very quickly next week. That's exactly what's going to happen. This is nothing more than a setup for the championship match. But the thing is, WWE should not rely on championship matches to create championship matches. Like, that they have been, and I wish somebody would go back. If someone, please, go back, even just a few months, 6 months, and tell me the number of free championship matches WWE has given away on free TV. It's astounding. It's got to be like 20 plus, 30 maybe. I mean, it's insane the amount of championship matches that WWE has given away. I am a patient fan. I think that championships lose their value when you give them away on free TV. I know that they're trying to spike ratings and create as much interest as possible, but the problem is that they are doing it so much that it inherently becomes less valuable because it's happening more often. I don't mind it happening once in a blue moon. Hell, it felt super exciting when they did that. I remember when Kofi Kingston and Brock Lesnar faced each other for the WWE Championship, and the infamous Kofi losing in like 16 seconds or whatever. I mean, I was like, whoa. I mean, that felt big and important, and that was the last time I can remember it. And now I'm like, like it's just so many championship matches every week that it makes pay-per-views feel less important. And don't you want people to purchase the network for those matches? People are like, why bother? I can get championship matches on free TV. So
it's kind of funny. Ever since they sold it to Peacock, you don't ever hear for $9.99 a month.
Yeah,
wait,
it's true. That is true. They got their money. They got their money and they ran. That's what they did.
But with what you're saying, okay, this was a grasp at straws attitude era moment. If something big happened on WWF at that point, the next day on Nitro, you would have a belt exchange. Mm-hmm. And it was never the world title, although they did the one time with Hogan and Luger, which, I mean, all of us got out of our seats because we couldn't believe it. Not only did Hogan lose, he lost by submission, and he lost on regular TV.
Yes.
And so, it's one of those things like we're asking friends like, wow, okay, this is awesome. That's a great moment. Even though it involved both Luger and Hogan, but neither one are great ring tacticians, but still it was a moment. It was a moment. And that kind of thing, it just doesn't exist anymore. It's like you said, like Kofi versus Brock, and even though it was a 16-second squash, it's just the fact that you wanted to see it to begin with. We wanted to see what was going to happen. We all pretty much knew what was going to happen. We all just wanted to see what the timeline was and what was going to happen. So, or how it would play out, more or less. How much of a story are we going to tell? And I don't know. There's no story to be told on either one of those belts being flipped that fast. So it's not going to happen.
Nope. I would say no. Although they haven't shied away from big title changes on free TV. I mean, Drew McIntyre won it back from Randy Orton on free TV, the WWE Championship. I mean, so it doesn't happen often, but I'm not a fan of it happening so many times. It's almost now that every show, if it doesn't have a championship match, you're shocked. Like, it has completely flipped to where not having a championship match feels weird, and I don't like that. I do not like that as a fan. To me, the championships are everything because that is what you have invested yourself in the characters for them to achieve to get. And if you don't care about what they're going after, then you lose interest quickly. It's a domino effect. So, okay, I do want to go on to something else as we alluded to and you alluded to. Apollo Crews and the Intercontinental Championship debacle that's going on. And this past week, Kevin Owens earns an Intercontinental Championship match. How he did that, I don't know. I guess just by the fact that he beat Sami Zayn at WrestleMania is how he earned it. I don't know, but sure. So we had Adam Pearce able to make this match on the fly, but God forbid he makes another one. And Kevin Owens loses. He does not win the match because of a distraction by Commander Aziz, i.e. Dabba-Kato. He loses via roll-up. And then Sami Zayn gets in the face of Kevin Owens after he's put down by the Samoan Spike. I mean, the Nigerian Nail.
Yes, of course.
I was wondering if you were going to know. Anybody else know? And if no one else knows what I'm talking about, Umaga, who is back in the mid-2000s, who was part of the 3-minute warning with Eric Bischoff. I think it was Rosie. I think it was
yep.
And he was just a monster. And they did a decent job with Umaga. And Umaga had a very similar finish with it was a taped thumb, but it was a taped thumb to the throat. And they called it the Samoan Spike. And now they've rebranded that. And it's been, 14 years. So I get it's kind of like, okay, maybe most fans don't see it or whatever. It's fine. I don't care that they're reusing it. Hell, Kevin Owens took the stunner. So it's now the Nigerian Nail. But we had Sami Zayn come in and do some hilarious dancing that's turned into 1,000 GIFs already all over Twitter, which was really funny. Honestly, it was really fun. Like, Sami Zayn is just I don't know how, I can't hate him. I'm sorry, I can't. But what do you think about all this?
Well, first of all, it's funny because you knew I was going to call that out as far as the finisher goes. It's a Samoan Spike to me. It always will be. But the thing is, I remember back when Terry Gordy was using it. A lot of people don't know that. Okay.
Yep.
But this is a weird situation because, okay, Kevin Owens gets this match for no good reason, and then all of a sudden, Sami Zayn's involved. It's being more and more. They're muddying the waters, okay, and we can't just have Apollo Crews and Big E. We have to have everybody and their brother, and the kitchen sink, and the Samoan Spike, and Aziz, Dabakato, whatever you want to call him, who is doing some of the worst acting I've ever seen in my life. He's new. He's rookie. He's green. Yep. I get it. And he's their own product. It's not like he's like a Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn who spent all the time on the indies. He's their own product. So that's all he knows. And he's doing a lot of bad mugging for hard cams and things like that. And it's like, your career would be so much better if things came naturally, and it's not. But so getting back to it, first of all, we had the dreaded roll-up, the most devastating move in the WWE today. And we have Apollo Crews going over, which, thank God. And I want to see more of Apollo going forward. But I don't know if this pairing with Aziz is good for him. I know it's something for him, something to glom onto and to develop the character more and so on and so forth. But it's not good. I don't. It's like a train wreck. You have to watch it, but you really shouldn't. That's exactly what it is. It's a train wreck. It's like the fake accent, everything. It's like, okay, this is kind of good for you because you're getting a push, but it's really bad for the rest of us because we have to see how you're getting a push.
Yeah, no, I hear you. The Aziz thing, I'm going to let it play out a little more before I go off on it. I understand the logic behind it. Typically, heels do need that heater. They need that person to take their bumps, to do the dirty work, to be able to run their mouths and then have backup. I understand the logic behind it. A lot of heels do that, and I understand it. Hell, Roman Reigns grabbed Jey Uso, and it's kind of the same dynamic, although Jey Uso is much more talented at this point. But I understand, yes. Yeah, Commander Aziz, we all know is Dabakato, and he is overacting right now. He is overacting a little bit. I think it could be inexperience, nerves, whatever. And look, again, he's super new to the WWE scene. So I'm going to give him a pass and see where this goes and allow it to develop. Maybe it'll get better with time. I've certainly seen worse, i.e. Retribution. So I definitely, we'll talk about that later with Drew McIntyre and all that. But I've certainly seen worse. This isn't the worst thing in the world. But Apollo Crews right now, I love what he's doing. He has turned his career around in the blink of an eye with just, imagine that, getting a character that people can hate or love. Instead of just the generic smiling babyface, he turns into this Nigerian entitled jerk, and that's great. Like he has true Nigerian heritage. That's real. He's nailed the Nigerian accent. He's an amazing athlete. We all know that. He's respected by fans. He's been there a long time. I really love what Apollo Crews is doing. Commander Aziz is still to be determined for me. Again, overacting, whatever. We'll see how things roll out. But him as Intercontinental Champion is the right move right now. Even over, I think, Big E. Big E didn't have the longest run, and people are angry about that. But I always tell people, look, just because they drop the belt doesn't mean they can't move up. That's what they did with Bobby Lashley. Drop the U.S. belt and immediately gets shot into the WWE title picture with Drew McIntyre. So just because they lose that belt doesn't mean they're not going to be elevated. It could be an elevation and a loss. So, I've no problem next week. Again, it's an Intercontinental Championship on free TV with Big E. And do I think Big E's going to recapture? No. As you said, I think there's like a 2% chance, maybe less, of Big E reclaiming that championship. But what's your take on Sami Zayn, though? Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, I guess, continues here into WrestleMania Backlash.
Well, Sami Zayn is multi-talented. He never loses a step. And no matter if they threw garbage at him, he would find a way to sew together garbage to make it look good. That's the best way I can put it. There are very few people that are that multifaceted and that multi-talented that they can actually say, okay, this is not a great storyline, but I'm going to make it work. I mean, we all kind of got bored of the whole conspiracy theory thing, but it's still going on. He's just doing his best with whatever he has. And I didn't like the dance, to be honest with you, because I honestly spit some Doritos out of my mouth when I saw it. I was just like, what the heck? But he's doing everything he can with it. But as talented as he is, and of course, he and Kevin Owens going back to their teens, coming up together. It's like Lance Storm and Chris Jericho, or Christian Edge. Their whole lives they wanted to be wrestlers. They grew up, they did this together. They made this happen together. The last chapter that these guys have is not today or tomorrow, but when they have this last chapter, it's going to be something to be seen. So I like whatever they do because they know each other way better than any opponent ever could. And I think that beyond something special, I think beyond like a true moment will happen. It may not be a WrestleMania moment or whatever else, but I think that when they have their final match and they call it quits, we're going to see a match that we're never going to forget.
I don't have any doubt. Anytime these two are together, and that's why WWE put them together at WrestleMania, because they know the history. They know they've wrestled each other literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And
exactly.
You're guaranteed a very good match, if not a possible classic. I mean, if given enough time. These two, we all know the potential with these two, and they were smart to do that. If they had nothing else for them, whatever, fine. You can put them together and you're automatically going to get a good match. They're plug and play, and I get why they did that. And so this is going to continue through Backlash and probably end there, and that's fine. I don't need to see these two fight anymore, at least for the time being. And the dance, again, I wasn't cheering for it, but I was just like, it's annoying. But I'm also like, I can see this as like a GIF or GIF, whatever you pronounce it, on Twitter. And sure as hell, somebody tweeted me. It might have been, I don't know if it was DJ Kuzma. Somebody sent it to me. It might have been. So DJ, if it wasn't you, I apologize. But somebody sent it to me on Twitter, and I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. And it was just, it's one of those things that. It's weird. It's not funny, but you're kind of laughing. It's a very weird thing to watch. But Sami Zayn is all in on his character. That if you love him or hate him, at least like you said, he's taking a not so great storyline and making it at least palatable because he's so talented, and that is the mark of a real talent, I should say. So, okay, as we continue on with some of the good here, I think Charlotte moving to Raw. Fans and listeners have heard my thoughts. What are your thoughts of this kind of refreshed Charlotte Flair with her very leggy outfits, but really breaking the fourth wall in her promos last week, not this past week on Raw, talking about the storylines that she didn't have any control over. Not saying the word storylines, but I think she phrased them as situations. Yeah. She didn't say storylines. Yeah. About her father and Lacey Evans getting pregnant. All these things that she said were out of her control. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if they're out of your control and Rhea Ripley just had to walk out and challenge Asuka, nobody contested it, where were you? I mean, you could have come out and say, whoa, Rhea, you just got here. You don't earn, So it was a little bit of, inside the world of wrestling, kind of outside, fourth wall, weird. But I think very intriguing. But maybe you have a different opinion. That's cool. What do you think about Charlotte right now?
No, I like Charlotte. I mean, obviously, first of all, she's starting to look more and more like Chyna. I don't mean that in a overly muscular way. I mean just the way she's going after men, going after referees, which it's different. It's something that hasn't been done in a long time as far as the female going after the male. But it seems to be her MO and her track record now is that she's going to abuse a male, which this is a different storyline. This is fresh. While I'm not into intergender mixing as far as matches and things like that go, it puts her on a different level. Because like when you switch boards over to like Nia versus Tamina, I mean they basically said it was a female Hoss match, which they worded it their own way, but that's kind of like what they were saying, And with Charlotte though, you see it as marquee star level stuff as opposed to it's just a large woman. First of all, she's looking ripped. She is looking amazingly ripped. I'm loving her promos. I'm loving the fact that she's softly breaking the fourth wall, so to speak. That's the best way I could put it. It's not full on pipe bomb or whatever else, but it's a good promo. It's a good promo set for her, and especially the fact that for some reason, I don't get sick of seeing Charlotte on my TV. I don't know about you. I never have a problem with one of her matches unless she has to wrestle somebody who's just garbage in the ring. But even then, I can see the good in whatever Charlotte does. Now, with her promo tonight, we had to hear Asuka saying the bitch word. Well,
yeah, she learned a new word in English, folks.
I know.
She's expanded her. Yeah. I know. Yeah, she did learn that. Which honestly, I've been saying, not to interrupt you, but I've been saying for a long time. Like, if Asuka wants to, really open herself up more to the English-speaking audience, which is the majority of the WWE core audience, you'd think that she'd want to learn a little more English to connect with her fans a little bit better. But that's beside the point. Go ahead.
Did you also notice that she called the girls rats?
Yes.
And you know what that term means, right?
No. Should I?
That's a ring rat.
Oh, a ring rat. Is that like a derogatory female term for?
It's okay. So she
yeah.
called them rats, but it's short for ring rat. A ring rat was a female that was a big fan of the male wrestlers. Let's just put it that way.
Ah, gotcha. I did not know that.
So yeah, that yes. There was a little tongue in cheek there, a little if you catch it if you don't kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's basically why she used that term. I think it was try to get like anybody who's been watching, since Moses, part of the Red Sea like me, to kind of go, oh, okay. But I'm loving Charlotte. I'm loving everything she's doing. Like I said, she never puts on a bad match. We know this, but it goes beyond that. It's the fact that she's adding a different level to her character because she can't be her dad. She can't be the heel that begs off. She needs to be herself. And I think that now they're starting to develop a character for her that's more herself. So we'll see where it goes. I like it. I really do. The only thing is I hope Asuka is not the victim in all this because she's too talented to get buried. If it's a program between Rhea and Charlotte, then we need to keep it that way and keep Asuka doing something else and not just being somebody else's light counter, so to speak.
Asuka, there's so many scenarios that I could point to that Asuka's been the really just there to kind of be the sacrificial goat, and it's been, I don't know if she's a victim of circumstance or whatnot, but I do feel bad for her at times. Like her being Raw Women's Champion for the last 6 months prior to Rhea Ripley was really all but forgotten. I mean, they didn't showcase her. The Raw Women's Championship was buried. They forgot about it. Nobody even talked about it. It wasn't on pay-per-views. It was absolutely inexcusable. I've said that many times too, but and I'll let you comment on that in a second. But I just want to say about Charlotte that she does, to your point, feel extremely natural. She feels like she's herself turned up to 10. It doesn't feel like she's got her promo voice, quote unquote promo voice that she often has. Even I remember Nia Jax ripping on her for that, kind of the robotic Charlotte that even I would get kind of like, oh god, another very robotic Charlotte Flair promo, and now she just feels like she's coming out, she's just being herself. She's saying that I am the opportunity. She says she knows her worth and so forth. I believe her. I don't know if all of this just beach time with Andrade, which by the way, if no one knows what I'm talking about, if you follow her on Instagram or Andrade on Instagram, it's almost. Look, I'm super happy that they're happy. Like, great. That's awesome that they apparently, again, from a distance, we all don't know what the hell. The thing is, on social media, you only see what they want you to see. Everything's distorted. So I'm going to go take them on face value and say, okay, they are that happy. Fine. That's great. And I'm happy that they're happy. But it is getting a little bit kind of like lovey-dovey, sickening, like teenage high school love, where they're just like constantly all over each other, and like he's grabbing her backside, she's laying down, the latest picture, and he has like his hand on her backside, and it's like, yeah, and it's just like, cool, like whatever. But it's just, I don't know. It's a little bit too constantly all over each other type thing. But look, they're happy. What the hell do they care that I care? Nobody does. But I just, I don't know if what it's done. Maybe she's been able to just kind of relax and find herself, whatever it is. I'm glad that she has found this version of her that is the best version of Charlotte that I've ever seen. She's comfortable. She finally looks like she's settled into who I was hoping Charlotte Flair could be. Not just this robotic queen that has robotic promos, but is really good in the ring. she's putting the personality and promo part together now. She's always had the ring part. She has never been completely full circle where you're like, oh man, this is effing awesome. Right now, she is, to me, firing on all cylinders, attacking the referees, fine, whatever. She wants to attack the referees. She attacked Rhea. She attacked Asuka this past week. I will say, I don't know who is supposed to be the heel and babyface in this, to be honest, because Rhea Ripley is not really that likable right now. She's not cutting good promos in terms of compared to Charlotte Flair right now. Asuka is kind of doing her same old thing. I guess she is the sympathetic babyface, kind of. But Charlotte is so good right now that I think fans are seeing that and going, I kind of want to root for this Charlotte. I know she's telling us to bow down and all the usual stuff, but we've been hearing that for years. I want to see the real Charlotte, and I think fans appreciate that. So I think fans would have a hard time not cheering for Charlotte right now, to be totally honest, because she's so good right now.
It's the most organic thing right now going in wrestling, as far as WWE is concerned. It's the most organic thing. Like, she feels like not as much character as she is herself. So, with that being said, I think that they just need to continue this. Just don't bury Asuka in the meantime. You know, there's other things you can do with her, as long as it's not a stupid tag team with Carmella or something goofy like that. But yeah, Charlotte's amazing right now, and this is great. This is great promo work. It's not like she ever needed in-ring, work tuned up, but she is just amazing right now with her promos and where she's going with this character. And I want to see where it goes. I just take me down the road. Let me see.
Yeah, exactly. She is right now the highlight of the show. And my final point about that was Charlotte is just like you mentioned, I don't feel sick of her. Whereas before she left and came back when she just inexplicably decided to tag with Alexa with Asuka, and they were just best of friends, and there was no explanation for it. They were just loving and holding hands during commentary and all this crap. I think I was Charlotte overload was before that. I was really she was on every show all the time and every title opportunity. And now she just, I'm like, I want more of Charlotte. I mean, seeing her come out, she is the highlight right now, one of the highlights of Monday Night Raw. So, all right. Well, I do want to continue on here, and I'm trying not to turn the corner here, but maybe I am slowly. Well, let me ask this. This is up for interpretation. Aleister Black on SmackDown got a promo of sorts. He has kind of glasses on now, and he's reading a book. Was it Tales of the Dark Father or something?
Yeah, Tales of the Dark Father.
Yeah, and because I wanted to make sure I got the title of the book, and what the hell did you make of this? Is this I would assume a kind of tweaked Aleister Black? Like what is this? Do you have any idea? Are you kind of?
I'd say come knock on my door and I'll tell you.
Yeah, knock on my door.
No, I have no idea where they're going with this one, and while I like it, I mean, okay, so I watched him as Tommy End for many years, and of course his evolution into Aleister Black when he got signed by NXT. The guy's great, and it's about time they actually found him something to sink their teeth into. I mean, just his look and his in-ring got him over on NXT by far. But once they brought him up to the main roster, which was way too soon in my opinion, they did not know what to do. And the problem is you had too many guys who look all the same. You got him, you got Drew McIntyre, you've got Damian Priest, you've got all these people who look almost exactly the same. I mean, to some extent, Roman Reigns, they've got the long hair, the beard, whatever. Okay? So only one person you can give the dark gimmick to, and one person you give he's Scottish, so we'll just make him being Scottish his gimmick. And Roman Reigns is from, he's the Samoan family, so he'll be the Samoan gimmick. They just didn't know what to do. And I think it was a toss-up between he and Damian Priest over who was going to get the dark person, the walker into the evil. But then it's like, well, we have the Fiend. We can't confuse the people. Well, you kind of can, really. So I don't know what's going to happen with this. I want to see a couple more promos, to be honest with you. A couple more vignettes, and let's see if it's not a farce and not a parody, especially with them firing his wife.
Yep.
I want to make sure it's not like they're going to turn this comedy on him and punish him. But with as talented as he is, I don't know why it's taken him this long to figure it all out. Now, I know Paul Heyman was doing the whole knock on my door thing. It was supposed to be a nod to the APA, and it's supposed to be like a new version of I'll fight anybody. But at this point, I'd rather just see him be a dark guy. I do think it's interesting, though, that how both he and Damian Priest have their names come up in flames. Yes. And I'm like, it's going to take only a couple more episodes of Raw and SmackDown before they figure that one out. Then they're going to have to put a bullet in it. Or who's the next hip-hop star that they could tag up with Aleister Black for no good reason? Maybe help put up with The Miz a little bit more, right?
Yeah, oh, please. Yeah, no. Good God. Yeah, look, we don't know. We don't know what this is yet. We've seen, issues in the past where WWE does decent promos, decent vignettes, and then it's a big flop when they debut, or they get them hot for a week or two, and then Vince sours and goes, well, never mind. I want to move on to something else. So I really, again, time will tell. Longevity and consistency will tell whether or not this catches on and whether or not Vince feels that it should catch on. Again, it's one promo on 1 week. He does have the darker character that he's evolved into. I mean, he was always dark to begin with. I mean, he came up basically looking like his entrance is basically like a coffin, right? Like he kind of stands up. So he's already been a dark character. This isn't a 180 whatsoever. It's just an evolution, I would assume, of Aleister Black. So not a whole lot to dissect there. We'll have to see. I would think that they're going to do this for several weeks, maybe leading to a Money in the Bank, if they want to go that long, or probably WrestleMania Backlash. He'll show up and attack whoever WWE wants him to get into a program with.
Exactly.
But all right. Well, beyond that, because there's really not much to talk about since nothing's happened yet, just a promo. Shifting back to Raw with McIntyre, Lashley. Again, these two will face each other once again at WrestleMania Backlash, as kind of expected. Retribution, though, no longer known as Retribution, is taking the place, assumingly, of Shelton and Cedric, who are just relegated to the lower ends of the tag team division, facing the Viking Raiders and losing to the Viking Raiders this week. I mean, they're a whole discussion in and of themselves. But what do you make of Mace and T-Bar, assumingly taking their place and attacking McIntyre and all that kind of thing?
Mace and T-Bar reminded me of, you remember in the Attitude Era Chronic?
Yes.
Yes, they are Chronic 2.0. That's the best way I could put it. It's like Chronic was a knockoff of WWE teams. They were supposed to look like giant Hardy Boys. And honestly, they did have a few good matches, but once they got to WWE, they had the match from hell with the Brothers of Destruction and basically put a bullet in their own career before it began over there. But that's what they reminded me of. It's like, we're supposed to be scared of you. They're ginormous guys, and yet there's nothing about you that I'm fearing. And the fact that they had built up Dominic Dijak so much in NXT, and then just to put him in as part of this retribution, which, I mean, shot itself in the foot before it could ever get out of the gate. I just don't get it. Well, they're unmasked, so they're going to go back to Dio Madden and Dominic Dijak? We don't know. They're still Mason T-Bar. And then I also liked during the whole intro and everything else, and MVP being out there, that we heard someone say something is fishy, and I was like, am I watching Scooby-Doo? I really thought that. So I don't. As far as a tag team goes, I hate to say it. I hate to think that they're going to be like the second coming of the Big Show and Kane, like giant jobbers, because I don't know what Dio Madden is capable of, but I know what Dominic Dijakovic is, or whatever you want to call him, T-Bar. And the fact is, you got a 7-footer who can do a couple of different styles of wrestling. He was never the greatest with his ring presence as far as knowing which cam to look at and things like that. But, I mean, the guy, when it comes down to the match, he can move, and he's legit. So I hope they do something with him. I mean, let's see him turn into a regular tag team or something. But when you kind of get slapped around by the former world champion, and then of course we have to bring Braun Strowman into it in the Braun Express. So don't get me started on that one.
Don't do it.
No, look, all they're doing is dumbing down our intelligence every time we hear that train whistle. I swear to God. And so anyway, it's just you have two guys that you could use as monsters, and instead are going to be used as mid card and not upper mid card. And that's what I see in their. That's what's in their foreseeable future. I see a Braun Strowman turn on Drew McIntyre to keep the two of them busy for a while, because that's what's going to lead into for right now. Bobby Lashley's going to a different greener pasture. I think that greener pasture goes through Keith Lee.
Yeah, the Keith Lee of just disappear. I mean, he should be a magician. He just constantly is disappearing. I don't know if that's his side gig. But he is, Keith Lee, I hope he comes back. I would assume he's coming back. We don't know the true full story. It's partly COVID, partly injury, partly probably issues with creative, a whole mix of just nonsense that have been start, stop with Keith Lee. And so, hopefully when he comes back that he is inserted into a program right away. I think he is deserving of a Bobby Lashley program. I understand it's a WWE championship. I get that, but I don't think Keith Lee would win it. It would just be kind of a massive program to get him into right away. Braun Strowman returning. Yeah, that's probably the case. Braun Strowman is going to go off the rails, pun intended, and
oh dear Lord,
how about that? There's a ton more train puns. I won't bore you, but that's probably what's going to happen. Braun Strowman is he's always feels like a lost dog. Like he's just he's a good. I think he fits Vince's bill. He is the 7-foot dude. I mean, probably not exactly, a little shy of that, but he's a big guy. He's got a big, deep, scary voice, and he's formidable in the ring. He can move better than most would expect. But to me, I just don't feel something. I don't feel anything for his character, like nothing. I don't feel like I want him to win. I don't feel like I want him to lose. He's just a good hand to have. He's the monster character, but he's so super one-dimensional. He's always angry at everything. I think that a little bit of a change would be good. He has flip-flopped several times now, though. When you look back at what he's done, ever since he faced Bray Wyatt in that swamp fight or whatever it was.
God.
Guess that's where he changed, and he got his hair cut and started putting on super, super tight shirts, and I don't know. I don't know what this is with Braun, but you're probably right. As far as those McIntyre and Lashley go again at WrestleMania Backlash, I don't think there's any chance that McIntyre comes away with the championship here. I think that one is also a foregone conclusion that Lashley retains. I think Lashley retains through SummerSlam, where potentially, guys, Brock Lesnar makes a return. That they will be in front of fans at SummerSlam, from what I understand. So that would be a good time for a big match like that. But McIntyre and Lashley, I don't hate it. I'm not super excited about it, but I'm mildly interested, and we know that we'll get a good match, and it'll probably end up with a Lashley victory retaining the championship.
I'm good with it. I mean, how many champions have we seen in the last 2 years? So longevity, I think, goes towards something. Plus, everybody's wanted this for Bobby Lashley, and there's only one person that they want to see Lashley go against at this point. It's Brock Lesnar. And I'll tell you what, Lashley could kick a puppy, but if he's going against Brock Lesnar, the world will be sympathetic to him.
Yeah. I
swear that's just the worst thing to say, but it's the truth. And whenever it happens, which I hope it happens, I think we all hope it happens, I think it's going to be really cool, because we've wanted it since 2006, 2007, So there's so much story to be told there, and I still think that Drew's his next big conquest is going with Roman on SmackDown and going after that championship. I think that's going to be, they're going to find a way to pull the trigger to get him over there, whatever loophole they want, but that's going to be the next big thing, I think, because I really think that they're very far away from building anybody into Roman's potential except for Drew.
Yeah, you do have to look to the other brand. I mean, there really is. There's I don't know where you go on Raw or on SmackDown. Edge is a part-time guy. He's a Hall of Famer. I mean, so you can't go with him. Daniel Bryan's going to be mowed over next week.
Yeah.
Like I said, unless they do, and I don't think they can wait until the brand split or the brand draft again, which apparently is every fall, right? Like that seems to be when they do the draft.
I think so, yeah.
So they are only about halfway through the draft roster as it stands, and they're probably scrambling to find combinations that they haven't already made. So I think what they'll do in the interim is potentially announce a trade. A massive trade has been made between Raw and SmackDown. Tune in to find out. I think that's probably what they'll have to do to shake things up, where they send over 2 or 3 guys or gals, and the other brand gets 2 or 3 back. I think that's where they'll go to compensate for the fact that they can't do a draft, assumingly. They can do what you want, but that they can't do a draft until September-ish. So I think that's what they'll do. I wish that what they didn't do was Survivor Series when they screwed the pooch and decided to do an exhibition match, which meant nothing, between Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre, where Roman ended up beating McIntyre. It just makes no sense. I was not a fan of it then. I don't understand it now. They could have left it at Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns, and I would have been just fine with it, but they didn't want to do it. They wanted, for whatever reason, they wanted to put those two together, which I think was a big mistake. But you're right. I think Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns, it's probably, you could do SummerSlam. I guess you could do SummerSlam, but I think that they're looking towards tentatively is probably WrestleMania 38 in Dallas.
That's kind of what I was thinking, that they're going to build it towards there, and it's going to be they're going to put another freight train right behind. I hate to.
Don't.
Why did I do
I'm
that?
thinking of the
sorry.
sound effect. I should.
Toot toot.
Yeah.
So they're going to put it behind, strapping the rocket. That's better. Strapping the rocket on the back of Drew McIntyre again, but with that as part of one picture, you also have to look at what you do with Bobby Lashley. And if you can't have Lashley versus Lesnar, you got to think who could beat Lashley. Who's the last person to soundly beat him cleanly?
Who was it? Braun? I don't know.
Finn Balor.
Was it really?
Finn Balor, remember? That, and I'm wondering if that's going to be a call-up. That he comes back up from NXT to regain the Universal Championship, or
then he never lost.
Exactly. And although he did have his rematch against Roman Reigns, of course they had the rocket on the back of Reigns at that point, and it makes you wonder what would have happened with Balor's whole first run to begin with. That to me, that was another moment that was must-see TV, because I couldn't believe that they crowned a champion on a Monday night, and he went over 2 of their biggest stars, and he was their so-called call-up from NXT. He would make the most sense to me right now for Lashley in a year-long build-up. I
think you bring up a good point in general, though, too. While Balor is a good opponent, you make a good argument. I think the bigger argument is, or really the bigger statement could be, that they start to infuse NXT talent into the rosters to compensate for the fact that, hey, we're 6 months into the draft roster, we need to keep things fresh. They can do trades, or, to your point, start bringing up other talent from NXT without draining the pool of NXT. See, it's always a fine balance, right? Because NXT doesn't want to be left a barren wasteland when, just to feed Raw and SmackDown. They also want to feel like and try to actually be a legitimate third brand. I have yet to feel that way given WWE's promotion of said brand. I just feel like, that is probably a safe assumption, a smart assumption to say that NXT is probably going to be a bigger part of WWE over the spring and summer to keep things fresh. And I think Finn Balor would be a great option, yes.
Well, to me right now, I see it as their biggest option in the future because, 2 years ago, they had 200 people under contract. They're not going to bring anybody from the UK over unless your name is Walter, period.
And he doesn't have any interest coming over, apparently.
Exactly, or Pete Dunne, Dune. Yeah, who is amazing. But the fact is he's so small, unless he's going in a head-to-head series with Rey Mysterio, he's going to be doomed to 205 Live. So, they're going to have to infuse it, and the way they could do it is that the NXT people are auditioning for Raw or SmackDown. It's a perfect storyline, writes itself. So now you have this fresh talent on TV, even though if you watch wrestling every day, it's not fresh talent. Point is, okay, you've got people who don't normally wrestle on Raw or SmackDown now wrestling on either, trying to get a spot. And so then they could befriend a Roman Reigns, or they could go against him. Or what happens if a Walter goes to a 10-minute time limit, which 3 matches I timed out at like 15 minutes tonight, by the way, but When I was doing my rewatch of the shows, I was like, wow, they're really letting people go a little long. But anyway, the point is, you've got all these wrestlers that could come up and show off, and especially if you're somebody like Walter, who's a bigger guy who might have a shot, and you wrestle Braun Strowman for a 10-minute time limit draw. Well, now all of a sudden people say, okay, we got to watch this guy. And you're too big of a name now to go back to NXT. So that's the way I think that they could spin it going into the future and try to salvage all the talent losses that they've had at this point.
Certainly. No, there's no question about it. I mean, first of all, I would love to see Walter actually in like the United States, like NXT, and come up to Raw eventually. I'm a big Walter fan, and I just don't see it happening. I don't know if it was an interview or a statement he made that he has no interest in coming into the United States to wrestle on a regular basis, and that's really a shame because I love Walter's look. I love that he doesn't have that physique that Vince loves to see, that he's, super cut. He's just a thick, big, badass dude, and I love what Walter is, and I hope he eventually changes course. I hope that specifically for him that he does come up. Pete Dunne, same thing. I do love Pete Dunne as well. But man, yeah, WWE is really going to have to make things feel fresh from now through what's after
August.
SummerSlam? I don't even know what's after SummerSlam. Night of Champions used to be, I think, something like that.
God.
I don't even know.
It could be one of those crown jewels.
No, God. Oh, no.
That'd be good.
The one good thing about COVID, okay? I mean, if there is such a thing as a good thing, is that we haven't had to deal with those events that are just in alternate universes of making sure the prince is compensated for the fantasy matches he wants to see, okay? Like, God.
He really wants Yokozuna to come over.
Dig up his body. I mean, like, let's just, jeez. Okay, completely switching gears is Tamina and Nia Jax. They faced each other this week. Tamina, they got the first ever, and they even said it on SmackDown with Pat McAfee, which I don't know if I got your comments on Pat McAfee either, but Tamina has gotten, they mentioned she got chants, that the arena was chanting for Tamina. And that's an important note at WrestleMania, and I've mentioned this too, because I don't think people have ever chanted her name. But she has a match this week with Nia Jax. Again, not exactly a wrestling technician's match. Not exactly a Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart match. But no. it was a bit of a mess. But with two big women in there, it does change the style of what you expect. So I guess it's a little unfair to hold them to the typical standard that we know today. But yeah, Tamina wins via the most dreaded and devastating move in wrestling. The roll up on Nia Jax, which, oh boy, that wasn't good either. But she wins. So Tamina's momentum continues. What do you think about Tamina, Nia Jax? What's going on?
I'm really confused where this one's going because Tamina's been there forever, and you figure they would have pulled the trigger with her a long time ago, being a woman's champion or something like that, especially because she's a bigger girl, that she would have gotten slid into the Nia Jax situation or the championship situation that was many years ago that Nia Jax had. I just think that Nia Jax has a lot more charisma and ring presence, and that's what keeps her so pushed towards the forefront. I enjoyed the match. It was not Charlotte Flair versus Sasha, but I enjoyed the match. They also mentioned that Nia Jax got body slammed, and they said that, when's the last time you saw that? Have we ever seen that? I started thinking about it. I don't know if I ever have.
I don't think so.
So it was like of course they're going to feed you and tell you what's a moment, but I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really awesome that she looked good. She, paid the homage to her father with the Superfly fingers on the top rope.
Yep.
I don't understand why she never got a push. I don't understand why she never was pushed to the forefront. And of course, like Natty's Natty. You never know where you could slide her into a situation. Natty might be the bottom of the storyline or the top of a storyline, but she's always into some kind of storyline. She always has some kind of worth to give something. And I think that rub is that's the kind of rub they're trying to give Tamina. Like, okay, if you're with Natty and anything can happen with Natty, well, maybe anything can happen with Tamina. So why she was off TV for so long, I don't know. Why she never got her big break, I don't know. I just figured that they didn't find her marketable for a long time. And then the controversy with her dad before he died, that really didn't help her or her character or her family storyline. So it's one of those things like, all right, do we stick you down at the performance center, let you practice wrestling, keep paying you, and eventually we'll find a way to have people forget? That's what I think this is like, all right, we're finally going to give you your due. I think people forgot what happened. And if people don't know, you can look it up.
Yeah, it's right there.
Nothing was ever proven. We don't know.
All speculation. I mean, there's again, everyone can draw their own conclusions. But regardless of whether or not it's been proven, the problem is that the damage has already been done by the accusations.
Exactly.
So that's the problem. And again, just in general with accusations, whether it's women accusing men or men accusing women, or in this case murder accusations, all these kinds of things. Accusations, even if they are proven not true, often don't reverse permanent damage that's been done due to the accusation, right? So in this case, again, draw your own conclusions with that. But I'm sure that had something to do with her push.
Oh, obviously.
No question. But like you said, as time goes on, time heals all wounds. And I think that they felt enough time has passed, just as when Hulk Hogan made all of his derogatory comments that were well documented. And there's like this X amount, and there's this undefined amount of time that has to pass before WWE will bring you back and they feel the smoke is cleared and the dust is settled and it's okay PR-wise to bring somebody back even if they've done something or said something really, really bad. Again, no fault of Tamina in this case. I mean, Tamina had nothing to do with this, of course, but by association, I think she was damaged, regardless of whether or not it's true. Anyway, back to Tamina herself. I think that she is long overdue. Tamina is long overdue for some kind of major push. Tamina, though, as the years have gone on, I think a lot of fans have expected her to be, future endeavored. I know I have, based on how they've used her in the past. You've just kind of expected to go, I wouldn't be surprised if Tamina's on that
employed.
list. Yeah,
I'm completely surprised she's employed. Yeah, especially after this last round. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I look at people that we forget are on the roster. Like, we forgot about the Viking Raiders for about a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you look at AOP, they got one shot and they were released in 2 months. So, it's like, okay, one fell sick or one got hurt. 2 months later, okay, Black Sunday, we'll flush it down the toilet. I thought that was going to happen to the Viking Raiders, but Tamina, wow, I'm surprised she's made it this far. So good luck to her. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I did not mean to cut you off.
You kind of gave me a visual of her circling the drain. Like her career was circling and circling and circling, but she never quite went down. I don't mean to be so gross about the visual, but that's essentially what her career has done. And she's no longer circling. I think she's in the biggest part of her career that she's ever had, regardless of the quality of her match with Nia Jax. Which again, you put two bigger women in the ring, there's no way you're going to get the type of match that you're used to with an Asuka and a Charlotte or a Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley, whoever. You're not going to get that. So I think it's not fair to raise the bar to that level. You have to understand it's a different lens with these two, and that's fine. I mean, but when you put them together, it just changes the whole dynamic. It's not like you have one person that's the super athletic, high flying, and can sell for the other one. They both have the same style of their wrestling, and so when you put two styles similarly together and you have them clash, it can often be disastrous, because somebody has to do the selling. And so anyway, Tamina, I think, was the right person to win. They're trying to capitalize on the momentum of Tamina. That's the right move. To me, it's now or never with Tamina. If they don't capitalize on the chance for her at WrestleMania, which I'm glad the fans did because I think that got WWE's attention, which again, I think empowers fans in live situations, as rare as they are now, to understand that when they cheer for somebody, that it does have an effect on management, I think. I think they do listen to that kind of thing, and I'm happy for Tamina. It's long overdue. Does this lead to a championship match for her and a championship victory? Probably not. I'm going to say probably not, but I wouldn't say it's impossible. I'd say it's an okay chance. But I feel like with the women's division the way it is, She'll probably be a contender. She'll be the number one contender. She'll have a championship match. But ultimately, I think she'll get screwed by the heel at whatever pay-per-view she challenges for. I don't think they're going to go all the way. I think they'll get there and then go, nah, and they'll come up with a reason why that, I don't know, whoever the champion is at the time is more worthy of it. I hope they do. I think Tamina needs a run, but I don't think that they trust her on the mic. I don't think they trust her.
No, that's a foregone conclusion. They don't trust her on the mic. But what I will say is, minus Lana, I think she's the only female who hasn't held a championship in some, like the actual women's championship. So, I could see it. But it's down the road. I just want to see where the build goes. Like for as much as we could say that this was a week in mediocrity for wrestling, the women's storylines with Charlotte, with Tamina, those are flowers that are growing up out of the garden right now. Those are the new things that we're seeing. And it's, I want to see more in the tag team division, but that's not happening right this second. But the women's division stuff seems to be the most creative, at least the most with just direction. Mm-hmm. Just makes you want to tune in more. And like Bianca Belair, like I'm hit and miss with, because while I'm a fan of her, like I said, leading up to WrestleMania, she was overexposed. She was on way too much. It doesn't make you want to crave more. It makes you want to change the channel or go to the bathroom. But with Tamina, it's like, this is a mixed bag. So let me see where this goes, because now I'm curious. They've piqued my curiosity, and you can take someone as huge of an asset as Charlotte is, and who is probably arguably the best female wrestler in the world, and you're not giving her 12 segments a show. You're giving her one segment, and that's it. And I can get my fill on that. And they're making it so I'm hungry all the time. I want to eat more. I want to digest more of this Charlotte situation, more of this Tamina situation. I'm getting something. I'm liking it.
It feels new. I mean, even though Tamina's been around forever, mm-hmm. It's cool because what's happened is it feels like the fans took control of this, and WWE's going along with it. Had the fans not cheered for Tamina, and it was just the typical old, Tamina gets a mild reaction, people go, it's just a very kind of quiet crowd when she's out, which is what Tamina has been most of her career. But understandably, given that they haven't ever really done much with her, is the fans, I think, are to credit for this push right now of Tamina. Imagine if those chants didn't happen and the crowd was really getting behind her and she didn't have that WrestleMania quote moment. I think that's an organic WrestleMania moment. We weren't told in the moment that, hey guys, get ready, alert, we're at a WrestleMania moment. I can't stand. They do that crap all the time. This one didn't have that. It was something that was generated by the fans organically, saying, hey, you know what? Tamina's been around a long time. She changed up her look a little bit. She's a decent performer. Let's give her a chance. And I think the fans have respected her and have seen her long enough and gave her that moment, and now have given the power to her career, have really, I think, jet fueled her career to see what happens. I'm just trying to think of another reason why this is happening. If the fans didn't cheer, I don't think this would be happening right now.
All I know is that I want to see next week. I want to see what she does. I want to see where they're going to go with her. I want to see her evolution. I want to see Charlotte's evolution. I want to see because it seems to be the thing that's hooking me more into wrestling these days, is watching those two females perform, and one's trying to put on the best wrestling matches of her life, and the other one's performing some of the best character development of her life.
Agreed.
So
yeah, this is it's like you said. Yeah, I mean we were a little down on this week, but thinking about it now, it's like, well, Tamina's got some good stuff going on. Charlotte is kicking ass right now. Let me ask you this: what do you think about Becky Lynch? First of all, are you excited about her coming back whenever that is? We don't know. I'm assuming SummerSlam, but I could be wrong. And do you think that she would be that she should be a babyface, a heel? Kind of like drive me through what you're thinking on Becky Lynch's inevitable return.
I can't wait to have Becky back. She just has so much to offer, and I mean, either role you put her in, she's going to rise to the top. She has, I mean, when she was a heel, she had a Stone Cold moment where everybody wanted to cheer her, and she became the face de facto. And so it doesn't matter how you bring her back, but we all know that bringing somebody back, we all know that when you come back, you get a hero's welcome.
Mm-hmm.
So she's going to be a face. I just hope that we have a dastardly enough heel. So I need somebody at the top of their game. I mean, if this is going to be part of Charlotte's build and make Charlotte this incredibly evil and this terrible, if it's going to help with Becky coming back, please do it. Absolutely, please do it.
Agreed. Yeah, I think
that's just that's the perfect storm. Or if Bianca Belair's ego gets out of check, because you can build that character. Like I said with the overexposure, if we keep putting her on more and more segments, then the fans, they'll eventually turn on her. It's not like I want them to, because I do like Bianca. I just wish they would less is more with her. But you could get her to that level and get her to that heat drawing level where you want to see someone come after her and take her out. Mm-hmm. But also with that, though, I got to see Bianca put on a few good matches in the meantime, so we all know that it wasn't just a fluke win and whatever else.
And don't forget, Becky Lynch is technically a Raw superstar. So if they don't do a draft or announce her some wacky trade, then she should come back to Raw if they don't care. If they care about consistency, of course. We'll see if they care. But right now, if she came back between now and the next draft, she should be on Raw. So take that for what it's worth. All right. Well, I do want to move on. Not a ton more to talk about. Let's see. Do I dare even talk about Miz and Damian Priest? And
how Damian Priest's career is over?
Yeah.
Before it got started?
I mean, do you have anything to say on this?
It's just, if there's a way to flounder in mediocrity, give more attention to the person who's not going to be there, a.k.a. Bad Bunny, and talk about him over and over and over again. And then all the promos that you're cutting in Spanish and in French and everything, I get it, we have an international audience. But the point is, it's like, look, I'm speaking Spanish because I can. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just so stupid. Like, I get the fact that he's Puerto Rican. I get the fact that Maurice is French Canadian.
Yep.
Yeah. So I get the fact that they are multilingual, but it's one of those things where, I mean, you had Carlito for all those years, and his father owns the only territory left. The only real territory left is Puerto Rico, the World Wrestling Council. Okay? And you had the son who now is the owner of that territory, and you couldn't do anything with him, and now you're trying to build somebody by associating with the music act that we've already forgot about. And yet you're trying to remind us every week, and we're not going to see him again. And then we want to talk about how great of a match he had at WrestleMania. How about the wrestlers? How about the people who train their whole lives to be wrestlers? How about the great matches they put on? You gave him a WrestleMania moment, and you told it to us. That's bad. So that's how I feel about that segment, that I don't care about the Miz and Mrs. If they're going to have their show, have your show, be off TV, whatever. I don't care. But by plaguing my television, taking up 10 minutes at somebody else who is really good, who could be in the ring doing something, that would be a creative way of using your airtime. And the fact that Damian Priest, I don't know what he's going to do from here on out. For his first singles match, or for his first match, which was against The Miz last week, to lose to the dreaded roll-up. Just the fact that we just cut your legs off before you had a chance to walk. It's so pathetic. And I don't know how his career is going to bounce back. Do you?
I think he needs to get away from The Miz because... Yeah. I think after Backlash, when the WrestleMania stories, most of them should conclude and everybody moves on to new opponents, the best thing that Damian career can do, and he can do himself, is to get the hell away from The Miz. No more. Just maybe even change up his look a little bit, just to make, because when I see Damian Priest, I still think of Bad Bunny with him. I still think of that whole story. And yes, he did overperform. And, credit to Bad Bunny at WrestleMania. He put on the best celebrity performance I've ever seen, period. He did. Credit to him. He busted his ass. But That doesn't mean I want to see him back in the ring again, competing with the WWE stars that are there, like you said, training their whole lives to get there, are in the gym 6 to 7 days a week, all the sacrifices they make, and Bad Bunny comes in, and he put in the work, no doubt. He did, and I cannot take that away from him. But the problem is Damian Priest now still has the stench of that storyline on him, and you still associate Bad Bunny and that story with him every time you see him with now The Miz. So I think after Backlash, he should just maybe take a few weeks off, or if he doesn't, change up his look a little bit, get a new opponent, and move on. That's the best thing he can do.
This is the worst thing, and I hate it, but I'm going to say it. Bam Bam and Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, God. You're going way back.
Yeah, but I think it was WrestleMania 8. It just reeks of death. It's the stench of how to kill a person's career. And that Bam Bam match with Lawrence Taylor killed his career. And everything he was promised to get after that because of the click, he never got. And that's really sad. And you look at some of the performers back then. Okay, you had Kevin Nash. He is not a good worker. He never was. You had Bam Bam, who was a fantastic worker, and he gets slotted into a celebrity position, that killed his career. He got the biggest payday of any wrestler because you got the main event at WrestleMania, but congratulations. You also had your career killed in one shot, and it's sad. It's really sad. It was hard for him to be taken seriously anywhere he went. He went down to ECW, and if the crowd wanted to taunt him, all they would scream is LT over and over again. And it's one thing to have ring presence and to show it in the ring, but there was another thing. You could tell he was frustrated because he should have been getting big paydays in WWE or WCW and had to wait years to go back there because the stench of LT was still on him. So it's not as bad with Damian Priest because he was on the winning side, but it's just the fact that he's worth so much more, and to have your career stunted by a celebrity match and then have to get rolled up to the most irritating human being on television, in wrestling, it's a double whammy. And go ahead. Say what you want to say. I'll really eviscerate this one, and I need to not be as negative.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. At least we can say this. I think we can just remove ourselves from it because we no longer have to deal with this storyline with Bad Bunny. He's gone. Sadly, I don't think that's the last time we'll see him. I know that many people are impressed by him, and I admittedly was. I'm not taking my words back. My WrestleMania review, I was very impressed with his work. We all expected it to be just a disaster, an embarrassment in the ring, and he did put in the work. I appreciate that he didn't just kind of phone it in, so to speak. So there's that. But as a personality, I think he's extremely obnoxious. I think if he was a heel, I'd appreciate him a lot more as a character. I mean, but when you were talking, it reminded me of when David Arquette won the WCW championship on Thunder. I mean, when he won, it's like you don't bring in celebrities to win anything. Like, they should never win anything because it completely undermines your entire roster by having them win. I mean, it's ridiculous. But oh boy. Okay, I do want to move on because you and I are going to just completely go scorched earth on this. But okay, Randy Orton versus Riddle. What do you make of this story that seems to be probably culminating in a WrestleMania Backlash match? I would think. What do you think about this?
This was another one that I just looked at my hands and I said, okay, I'm kind of confused. So Randy Orton just doesn't like Matt Riddle because he hasn't been a pro as long as he has, although he doesn't really realize in real life that Matt Riddle could probably beat him within an inch of his life.
Oh, God, yeah.
So it's like, I get it. You're the pro. You've been in pro wrestling longer. And I take that seriously, too, because while Matt Riddle wasn't a top-tier name like Ronda Rousey or somebody like John Jones or something like that, I mean, you can watch his fights. The guy is solid. He can fight. He can take a punch, and he can give a punch. And it's like I feel like they just keep throwing Randy Orton out there. Like, I feel like the guy's tired. And it's weird because watching him even wrestle, like, he kind of looked tired. I mean, obviously he's not working out like he used to. His body's starting to get a little softer. And, hey, he's in way better shape than me. So this isn't me telling you, hey, Randy, get in the you need to get into the gym because I'm nobody to tell you that. I'm a very small guy. But it was just the fact that I think Randy needs a break. I feel like he's carrying a lot of the burden of Raw on his back. Like, we don't know what to do. Well, at least we got Randy. Like, I feel like he feels the way John Cena's insides look. Like, can I just have a day to myself?
Yeah.
And so with the match, first of all, between Matt Riddle, Braun Strowman, and who else? I made a note here.
Drew?
We had like people. Drew. Well, no, everybody's spitting. What's up with all the spit? Everybody's just slobbering on themselves in different maneuvers. But yeah, there was just spittle everywhere. Everybody's been spitting this week, which it's a silly. Yeah, it was Kevin Owens.
Oh, Kevin Owens. Yeah, when he got Simone spiked. Yes.
Yeah, everybody's like spitting all over their faces. Like, guys, clean it up. Which that's just a personal thing, whatever. But so the match was okay. Went for a lot of submissions. Of course, it showcases Matt Riddle's background. It's just kind of weird that he keeps going into a sleeper. And it's funny because Lashley's using the Hurt Lock, which is a full Nelson. And I just think to myself, like, are we going to bring back, like, I don't know, a step over toe hold as a finisher? You know, it's kind of funny how they're like going old school with a lot of stuff. But what I liked about the match was the psychology. Was keep working on the same body part, keep working on the same moves. I like that. It showed. It reminded me of old school Tully Blanchard or Arn Anderson, when it's okay. If you're going to wrestle Ric Flair next week, I'm going to work on your leg because that's his finisher is the figure four kind of thing. I like the psychology behind it. But aside from that, Randy Orton needs a break. He needs to be taken out of the match for a while. I know they're going to build towards a big rematch of some sort. I don't know why Matt Riddle's not mad that he hasn't gotten his belt back from Sheamus, but they figured they're just saying that the character's too high to care. I also figure that Matt Riddle is really high up on the Vince McMahon punishment chain right now, like kicking off your flip-flops, turning into rainbow-colored birds, always acting like you're so stoned you don't know your name. It's gotten a little old. I would like to see where they snap into the character where in the middle of a match he just snaps and just starts submitting people left and right. We got to give this guy a little bit more depth before they bury him, and I'm afraid that's going to happen. I really like Matt Riddle. I'm a big fan of Matt Riddle. I know what he can do from watching his matches in PWG and so on and so forth. I'm not going to bore the people with this, but the fact is this guy's getting buried. And Randy Orton's not the right foil for him. He needs to get his belt back from Sheamus and rework a program with that because Orton's doing him no favors, and Orton needs a break. That's how I am.
It's funny you mentioned that Orton needs a break. I didn't realize I wanted that until you said it. The thing is, Orton, regardless of what you think of his character, his legacy, he is one of the biggest stars WWE has ever had, and I think that Randy Orton is and still does have a lot to give to the business, but there does come a time when you just need a break, and we've seen Randy Orton on TV every Monday for the better part of a year and a half now. I mean, he got involved with Edge, and ever since then, with the Royal Rumble and all that, when Edge returned a year and a half ago, we all have seen Randy Orton every single week. And I love Randy Orton. I think he's an exceptional talent. He's getting better on the mic. I loved his interview with Stone Cold on the Broken Skull Sessions. I think that was very revealing. All that. But there does come a time when it's just like, okay, cool. Like, you're awesome, but we need a break from you. I don't think WWE will do that because they feel like it's always an all hands on deck. No, we are too much. We need star power, and I get that. But I think there's value in talents taking a break because it gives fans a chance to miss you, whether you're loved or hated. And it creates the anticipation of when you return, who are you going to attack? What are you going to do? There's a lot of good that comes from breaks. And I'm okay with Randy Orton taking a break. As far as Riddle goes, exceptional in-ring talent. I think he's got a great future ahead of him in ring. His personality is where I'm not a fan of his personality. It's like you said, I think that Vince sees him as, like you said, it could be punishment or it could be that Riddle showed him some comedy, an inkling of comedy one day, and Vince goes, I like that, pal. And he just, you know what I mean? He took that little bit of comedy and goes, I got some great ideas for you. And he just made him into this goofy, scooter riding, always high, flip-flop flying kind of dude that it doesn't make any sense from his in-ring character to what he does backstage. And I don't know if that's that's the idea, is that what he does backstage and how he acts is not who he is in the ring, or if it's not meant that way, I don't know. But who he is backstage is it's obnoxious. The only thing is Randy made it funny this week because Randy was just the way he was looking at Riddle scooting around him was kind of funny. And Randy Orton acting like he didn't even know who he was I was kind of like thinking, is that disrespectful or do I find this funny? I didn't know how to feel. But he's like, who is this guy? Like he didn't even know who he was. So. I don't know.
I get the fact that, okay, so he had to revoke a lot of his UFC wins because he tested positive for marijuana. Well, we all know that marijuana is not a performance-enhancing drug at all.
All right.
So, if anything, he probably saved a guy's life by being on it. But seriously, I mean, like, I love the Randy disrespect and everything, but give Randy a break. Let's take it. We as Cornette says, we can't miss you if you don't go away. So I'd like to miss Randy for a while. Plus, there's other people that they could be doing stuff with, and I get the fact that they keep pushing up to this upper echelon, and I get that Randy's there, and he's gotten to that point where he needs to. He is the biggest heel of their company. Okay, even though Roman Reigns is bigger to them and his long-term future. For some reason, a top tier WrestleMania for the next couple of years, they'll still find a way to put Randy there. That's just what they do. And it's nothing against him. The very first time I saw him wrestle, I said, this guy's got money printed all over him. He's a great performer and he always will be, but let's give the guy a break. Let's give him a break. Give Randy a break, man. Yeah. But, and in the meantime, like I said, okay, you've got these people like Aleister Black that you haven't touched in months. So let's find a place for them. Instead of vignettes, they could be part of. Where's our Buddy Murphy? You and I are both big fans of Buddy Murphy. Where's our 24/7 jobbers? We haven't even seen those guys. But we're getting these poor guys who are just beat up. More and more exposure every week, and there's other things that could be done. There's just a lot of other things that could be done. So I hope Randy gets a break, and I hope Matt Riddle gets a program. I hate to see him go back to working with Sheamus, but if he can get the U.S. title back, I just don't want to see it hot potatoed. I don't, and Sheamus, that's a whole other ball of worms, can of worms, whatever. Because what do you do with him right now, really? I mean, don't you feel kind of like babyface short, like babyfaces that besides Matt Riddle, like that are in that U.S. title tier? Do you feel a little deficient there?
Yeah, I really don't know where they go. I'm trying to think.
That's so maybe that's why we're so down on wrestling this week is the fact that they might be grasping at straws because everybody needs a break. Maybe I guess the best way I could put it is you've got certain performers who won't perform because of COVID. You've got certain ones who've gotten sick like Keith Lee, or we've been told we don't even know. Then we've got people who are super talented that have never been given a chance like Buddy Murphy, like properly. So we've got all this spaghetti we could throw against the wall. Let's see which noodle sticks, and they're not doing it because maybe they feel shorthanded or they just don't trust the product or they don't trust the performers.
Well,
that's what's happening in wrestling right now.
We had Buddy Murphy trying to get back with Seth Rollins last I knew. Again, I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. Buddy Murphy a few weeks ago was trying to get back with Seth Rollins. I'm just like, wait, how many times are we going to do this?
He's too talented and has way too much ahead of him to be a stooge. And it's like you said, okay, so what's happened since then? Where's he been? He's in a canoe with Keith Lee fishing somewhere. I hate to say it, but that's the problem. They talk about having NXT to develop these new stars, then you bring them up to the main roster, and then you promptly do nothing with them. And it's so frustrating to me. Like, what's going to frustrate me more is a month from now, if you and I are talking, and we see the same people that we've seen on Raw and or SmackDown, just jumbled up wrestling somebody else. I don't want to necessarily – not everybody needs to be in a long storyline. But the fact is, if we don't inject some new blood here or there, the product is going to be way hurt, way more hurt than they know. I mean, do you have any ideas what ratings were this week?
I didn't check. I mean, I could Google it while we're talking, but
I'm just curious. I think they hovered at $2 million a piece again, and they're never going to break through that bubble. They're still going to be dropping under 2 and floating at 2, and it's kind of crazy that they don't want to break that bubble anymore. And now that they've sold so much of their rights, do they even care? That's the sad part.
So according to Showbuzz Daily, Raw averaged 1.9 million viewers during the 3-hour broadcast, down from last week's 2 million. So they lost 100.
And that was post Mania.
Yep.
And post Mania is supposed to be the biggest Raw of the year.
Yeah.
So that's pretty. I mean, usually it is.
Yeah, that's not good. Well, the Raw after Mania got the 2, and then the Raw this week got the 1. Yeah, so that's not. Again, there is always that adjustment after WrestleMania. You get to see what your core fan base averages at. So that actually is not unexpected, but you'd like to not have that big of a drop. Yeah. All right, what do you think about Lily? This is the last thing I have on my list here. The Fiend and Lily.
Okay.
What do you think about this?
I'm curious. This is another thing. The women's storylines are good.
Mm-hmm.
Alexa's doing great acting. In fact, I'm going to say this, and you're going to laugh. I kind of miss her in the ring.
No, I'm not going to laugh. Yep.
She was not a bad performer, and she can inject lifeblood into anything. Could you imagine her being the one going after Bianca right now?
She put the women's roster on notice this week. That's what I loved.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so it's like this whole Lily thing. First of all, I don't know what they're doing with Bray Wyatt's career.
Oh, that's a whole nother ball of wax.
Yeah, because he's now in the boat with Damian Priest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just really sad for him to lose 3 times to a guy who's been in wrestling over 20 years. And it's not, trust me, I wouldn't mess with Randy Orton. But the fact is, did we kill the storyline or did we kill a wrestler's career? I don't know which we did. I don't know which they did at WrestleMania.
I think they did. I'm sorry. It's the worst. It's the worst of both worlds. Like they didn't elevate Randy, and they didn't elevate the Fiend. They kept Randy about the same. Randy's the same. He would have been the same if he lost, but they, I think, did massive damage to the Fiend. So
massive, and I don't know how to elevate him. I don't know what to do with him. Usually, I could pull something out of my brain that I saw in 1983. And be like, okay, we could follow this kind of storyline, and he needs to come up. The only way his career could be salvaged is if he takes out Braun Strowman, and he does it for all of us. Please, God, let him do it for all of us. Because he seems to have Braun Strowman's number. But how do we get him up to that level that we'd even believe him as a challenger? I don't know. But as far as Alexa goes, oh my God, she's doing amazing. And that's another one. I want to see where she goes. I want to see what her in-ring's been like. She's been on the sidelines, half a year?
Yeah.
Maybe longer?
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. Did she lose a step? I'm curious. Did she gain a step? Did she get that much better? You never know. So I want to see where it goes. But the fact is, for Bray Wyatt's career to be the one that took the biggest hit during all of this, that wasn't cool. That was really silly. And like I said, Randy needs a break. So why are we making Randy work more and Bray off TV? I don't get it.
It should be the
I don't know. Yeah. So that's where I am with that. You know. Can I go over my notes real quick for the week? Okay. First of all, MVP is turning into Bobby Heenan, and I love it because it's the Hurt Business is dissolved, but he keeps referring to the Hurt Business, which means I think that more people will eventually grow. But he made a great point in his promo, like, we shrank, so why would we hire those 2 bums? And he's still being rude to him.
Yeah,
he's being rude to Mason T-Bar. It's like, I love MVP. He gets better every week.
He's the true MVP. He's exactly what his name says.
He really is. He really is. It's so sad that this is happening this late in his career. I wish this would have happened like 15 years ago when he first came in. But for him to even get a shot at this point, phenomenal. So is the Hurt Business out of business? What do you think?
I don't think they're out of business. I think the name or the faces will change, but the group will remain. Even if Shelton and Cedric, which is to me a whole other topic of exactly what the hell the story was there, why they got kicked out just to get relegated to the lower card of the tag team division. But I think the Hurt Business name has actually some equity right now. I don't think they want to dissolve the name, even if the faces change.
I get you on that, and I would like to see. I don't know who I would like to see join it at this point, just because everything is so hodgepodge. The scales are balanced with mediocrity. The women's stuff is so good, but the mediocrity on the other side, we don't really have any names that are prominent unless they pull up that NXT that we were talking about. Mm-hmm. Or they pull from NXT like we were talking about. I hate my stuttering. Okay, but some other notes I have is, did you notice overall between both Raw and SmackDown there was a lot of botches in the wrestling matches?
Oh, yeah. No, I did, yes.
And I know the botch guy's going to have a field day with that one.
Yes, he is.
But I just couldn't believe, especially like usually Dijakovic, T-Bar, whatever you want to call him, he's usually pretty solid in the ring. And I watched him screwing up. And then Diomad and Mace falling down prematurely on the ring side. I don't know if you saw that or not. Mm-hmm. It was just a sloppy fall down. It reminded me of Coach K at that game like years ago when he just laid down on the sideline and started shivering. Like I was like, what is going on here? So yeah, there was a lot of botching. And then the biggest botch of it all. Did you watch when Charles Robinson was officiating and like miming with the wrestling moves?
No.
Oh my dear Lord! Please rewatch, because when Charles Robinson was I want to say it was the Cesaro match that he was officiating, and first of all, he's starting to look more like Lumbergh from Office Space.
Oh God, I love that movie. God, I love that movie.
Look at his face, then you'll think, oh dear Lord, I cursed him. But with the matches, especially like a powerbomb spot and such, he's like pulling and miming like parts of like he's almost calling it for them.
Really? Okay, yeah. I gotta check that out. All right.
Yeah, rewatch that. And if anybody listening out there wants to talk about that, that was something I noticed. And maybe he was just trying to accentuate the power and the power moves, but it looked like he was almost calling it in the ring for them. And it was like a little too scripted. So I know Seth Rollins had a combination look of both Elvis and Michael Jackson going on.
I love your notes. These are great.
Let's see. Pat McAfee.
Yes. What do you think about him?
Okay. He, I guess, is a heel commentator. He gets under my nerves. He gets under my skin. So he's doing his job. But, wow. I mean, okay, first of all, it's better than seeing Gronkowski.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because I think McAfee can actually get a heel heat as opposed to a channel-changing heat. Okay, so I'll give him that. But when somebody got thrown into the barricade and he mimicked Paul Heyman's voice, these things don't move. Like
I heard that.
Oh, so you caught that too?
It was during the Tamina match. Tamina and Nia Jax.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, I get the fact that you're a millionaire, so you don't need Vince's money. But there are also people who train their whole lives to be those commentators, and you got it handed to you. Okay? So don't make me hate you out of that position. He's got potential. Honestly, I will say he's got potential because I did not like him when he was that leader of that group down in NXT. But I hate to say it, he grew on me. And he can do real heel work. Now, as long as he doesn't segue to an in-ring career and ruin it for everybody who's trained their whole lives, I'm happy. As long as he calls what they tell him to have in his ear and he doesn't try to do a voice and mimic people. Because I thought that was disrespectful towards Paul Heyman. I really did. In a dumb way. I guess my own personal way is the fact that we get the fact, like I said, he's a millionaire. He doesn't need the money. So if he calls an audible and says whatever he wants and gets fired, no big deal. But there are other people. Samoa Joe was let go for this. Please. It's disrespectful to Samoa Joe that this guy's calling commentary and mocking Paul Heyman.
I didn't even think my brain didn't connect the dots that it was a mimic of Paul Heyman. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. Pat McAfee, I'll say this. If no one has ever heard of him or seen him before, and all of a sudden he just shows up on SmackDown and he's with Michael Cole, I think most people would look at him as like, wow, okay, we've never heard of this guy, but he seems to be doing a pretty decent job. We have certainly seen, where people come in and they're brand new and it feels like they're brand new. Joe was not great at the beginning. Byron Saxton was god-awful at the beginning. And to some extent, Byron Saxton is still not very good in some situations. But Byron Saxton has evolved and grown, and he's definitely, I think, progressed in a positive way. But Pat McAfee, I think, is, again, if you knew nothing of him other than just bam, he's on your screen, I think most people would look at him as, okay, cool. Like, he seems to be fitting in decently. He's mispronounced some moves. He's misspoke about different programs. He's said things that he shouldn't say. Like at the beginning of I think SmackDown last week, he said, and the storylines continue or something. He actually said storylines on TV. I'm like, dude, no.
And you're going, no, don't.
No, you never say the word storylines. Never. And he said it at the beginning of SmackDown last week. I'm like, oh, God. So I think overall, if you didn't know anything about him, I don't think he's doing a terrible job. I got to say. And yeah, he is certainly, money's not a problem for him. But I think they're doing a test run with him. I hope it doesn't translate to an in-ring career either. I will say I do like 2 men instead of 3. A 2-man booth is, I think, infinitely better than 3. I'll say that. I like 2.
One person always plays the stooge, like, well, who are you cheering for over here, Saxton? It's like one of those things where then 2 people, they usually find who the smallest ego is, and it's like they pick on it, even though it's all scripted. I don't like it. 2-man has always worked for me. Let's keep it at 2.
Yep.
Nice and simple. We got a technical, we got a color, and we've got a heel and a face.
And that's keep it simple. Yeah. Yep. I agree. So I hope they do that on Raw. It doesn't look like they're gonna with what's his name? He came from the MLB Network. I can't pronounce his name.
The Adnan?
Yeah, Adnan. Yeah. So I what do you think about him? Do you have any thoughts on him?
I just think it's funny that he debuts and his name is Adnan, and that was the name they gave to Sheik Adnan LKC when he came in as General Adnan, who was like the manager for Sergeant Slaughter. So I'm like, a little touch and go here, huh? I pay attention to that kind of stuff. He wasn't bad. Honestly, he kind of disappeared into the background on me. I get why they brought him in, because if you're used to calling commentary your whole life, that's what you do. I get it. And so therefore it's easier for someone to talk in your ear and it sound more natural than it did with Joe. I liked it because at first when Joe was out there, he sounded like he was actually talking about wrestling. He didn't sound like, it was Vince McMahon talking in his ear saying, now you must say this, now you must say that. But then as time went on, he had that weird middle period where you could definitely tell he was really scripted. And I think last time we talked, he still had a job, and that's when they talked about him being scripted. And then he was let go right away. So I don't know. This Adnan guy doesn't bother me. I'm curious to hear him a little bit more. Like I said, he kind of disappeared, which means he wasn't over the top. He wasn't choosing a polarity of babyface or heel. So I just think there could have been a better way of introducing him, and there could have been a better way of saying goodbye to Joe. Just saying, hey, he's not here anymore. Anything. Instead of just pretending, oh, he never existed. That's one thing WWE has done since, I was watching in the early 80s, is if someone was leaving the territory, it's like they just pretend they didn't exist anymore. And I hated that. Like, it's okay to say goodbye to somebody. I don't know. That's me.
It is. I mean, you could look at it a couple ways. It's disrespectful in some way, all the time, and sacrifice that they have made. It's just that they don't exist. Suddenly they're just not there, and no one even recognizes that they were there. But at the same time, maybe WWE is looking at it as, well, how are we going to explain it? What are we going to say? We can't lie. We know that we actually fired him. We can't tell the fans, oh, well, he's out with an injury, or like everyone knows. So how are they going to even come up with something, right? Like,
it's a tough one. I mean, it's funny because like we all make fun of Impact, and let's be honest, we all make fun of Impact.
Yeah.
And but when they did the Jim Cornette came back for 1 week to fire everybody in the ring, and he like fires Bruce Pritchard, and turns out he was really fired in real life. Like, it was, I kind of liked it, to be honest with you. But there's ways of saying, okay, we've mutually parted ways.
Yep.
He's got a 90-day no-compete clause, so he can't say anything about it. So it's okay to say something like, we've mutually parted ways. Samoa Joe is no longer part of our broadcast team. He's no longer part of the WWE family. We wish him the best.
And leave it
Coming
at that.
in is and then you could bring in Adnan. So I think that they could have done a better job with introducing him. It's not that he's going to be a character, and hopefully he's never in the ring because he looks like a pretty small guy like me. But just a better way of bringing him in. But I didn't mind him. Like I said, if McAfee dials it back, he'll be all right because he can play that heel role really well, and he grew into that persona at NXT. I think he's just way too excited right now. So he's kind of, I don't want to say marking out, more like dorking out.
Dorking, yeah.
Well, because, I mean, we're all marks of some perspective, right? I mean, we all love wrestling. That's what we are. So we're all fans of it. I just think it was the excitement and the position and being on TV, everything was just, it got to him. And he just kind of turned into a giant dork. And who knows? I might have done the same thing. I might have called something in a voice because I thought it was cool and then realized, wait a minute, I'm on national TV. No. Yeah,
no, that's true. That's true. And actually, to some degree, you are on a nationally syndicated broadcast right now. So
exactly.
Yeah.
But, and I've said some stuff in voice before, but I don't know. For some reason, it just kind of bothered me. And he'll be all right. I think he'll be all right. I think he'll be all right in time. He just needs a couple more weeks to iron out his kinks.
Any other notes that you had before we wrap things?
I think that's basically all my notes for the week. Really, I was just really happy that I got to be on the show this week, that everybody's listening to me, that I've missed everybody out there. Been doing a lot, going through a lot. Got a boss recovering right now. Just got out of the ICU, so it's been
COVID or something else.
Yeah,
COVID. Yeah.
And it was pretty touch and go, pretty risky, and he's like a brother to me.
Jeez.
He really is. He's incredibly important to me, and losing him would have been really bad, but it wasn't that as bad as losing just the fact that he was hurting really bad, and that's why I couldn't talk to you off the mic for a while.
Mm-hmm. No. I get it. And I'm glad that things turned out the way you wanted. I mean, like that we didn't lose him.
Yes,
absolutely. He's out of danger, I would assume, right?
Yes. And so I got a lot of work to do because, like I said, he looks to me to hold the reins of a big horse, and so that's what I got to do, and that's what I need to do, and that's how we all help each other in this world. So,
absolutely.
I guess shout out wise, I just want to say thank you, Matt, for having me on the show. I missed you, and I missed being on, and like I said, I've been really busy. I've been taking care of a lot of things for somebody who's really important, and I don't know. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
What about? Yeah, no problem. Twitter?
Just at 144Captain. If you want to find me, if you want to talk some wrestling, I'd love to talk wrestling with you. I'd love to talk about. It's a great way to segue to keep our brains busy when we're all maybe possibly just a little upset.
Absolutely, no. Keep, everybody, that's a shout out. Get his mind off of serious stuff. And let's talk some stuff that doesn't really matter, but it's fun to talk about as wrestling. So. Michael, it has been a pleasure as always. We'll get you back on as soon as we can, and I hope things are settling down in your life. And I'm glad everything worked out with your boss, and that things are on the mend. And I hope wrestling follows suit. So,
all right. Well, you have a wonderful evening, my sir.
You too. Take care.
All right. Goodbye.